Hi there, and welcome to another video of Coding with Cables. My name is Mark, my handle on the forums is Andro, and today I'm going to be showing you how to recreate the random Walker algorithm inside of Cables. So let's go to Google. Now we have some images here which basically show the idea of a random walker, and it basically means you have like a point, an agent, and all it can do is each frame it can move in 4 possible steps. That's the thing we're going to implement today. And here we've got some images which can come out of this. And they're a really cool way to get started with generative art and to just like wrap your head around random systems. And this here does a great, this shows basically what's happening in like fast forward. So we're going to recreate something like this in Cables today. And you've got an amazing video from the one and only legendary Daniel Schiffman. I'm such a fanboy of Daniel because he makes amazing videos and he makes this stuff really accessible. And he's just got a huge amount of learning resources. So you should also definitely check his video out while you're doing this. Thank you, Daniel. I'm such a fanboy of this guy. Anyway, he's also got an amazing webpage called The Nature of Code. I've gone to this a lot through the years to learn about techniques and things that I like to do with generative art. And right over there, we've got this random walker. So let's get started. So this video is going to be broken down into 3 sections. This first one is going to show you just how to code the basic op and how to use it with other cable ops to make the random walker. The second video is going to like go way more in depth with how we can use other cable ops to modify it without having to code more. And the third video is going to show you how to do all of this in 3D. So I'm going to like copy paste some code today so the video doesn't take too long. So in those moments I'll say it, you should just pause the video if you want to study what's going on, but I'll explain it as best as I can, as this is a new approach for me with doing this kind of stuff. So first of all, I'm going to make a main loop. Let's zoom in a little bit. I'm going to come out and then I'm going to grab a sequence op. Now I'm going to grab a render to texture. I'll explain why in a minute. Come down a little bit. I'm going to grab another sequence op. And now I'm going to grab a transform. And now I'm going to get a basic material new. Sorry, basic material, muscle memory. And then I'm going to grab a circle. Okay, circle mesh. Great. And we're not seeing anything right now because we're rendering to a texture. So we go over here, we make a full screen rectangle. We grab the texture out and we plug it in. There we go. Now we go over here, we turn on HDR, and we put MSAA on 8. Now I'm going to make this circle a lot smaller, 0.1. So first of all, processing does this random walker normally on the CPU, okay? And it's operating on a per pixel basis. Now, because we're like in 3D space and because we're doing everything in OpenGL real time, we have to kind of like adapt some of these techniques, which is something I found really interesting with this challenge. So if I go here to transform, for example, and I'm just going to grab a sine anin because I just want to demonstrate something here. So it's just going to output a sine number, as you can see. And I'm going to grab another one, and I'm going to grab this. I'm going to plug that into Y, and I'm going to give it a different frequency. And as you can see, we now get this shape going over the screen. So what I want to do is, like in processing, I want to kind of paint over the canvas, basically. And this is the canvas, like right here. So if I go to render to texture and I turn off clear, as you can see, we now get this, which is just already pretty cool in of itself. And if I now lower the opacity of a material to say like 0.25, and then I'm just going to turn clear on and off again. As you can see, we get this like softer look, which allows you to draw repeatedly over parts and they'll kind of like get brighter until they hit the threshold. You can see it here. So this is cool, but I want to be able to like reset this really quickly and easily. So I'm going to get the mouse up. And I want this to happen when I click the right mouse button, which is here. So I'm going to pull it out and I'm going to grab the toggle bool op. Now, if I click here now, as you can see down there, this goes to true and false. So I'm going to make it that if I click twice, that I clear it and then it's ready to go again. So I click once to clear, second time to bring it back. Okay, so far so good. So now we've got like the basic thing that you can do in processing, where you've just got a canvas and you're not clearing at each frame, you're just continuously drawing into it. So I'm just going to get rid of these sine anins. Okay, Now, what I need to do here is I need to just, like, when you want to code an op, you need to think, what does this op do? What do I want it to do? And the challenge to me with this one was like coming up with an op which kind of like works with the other ops inside the cable. So it's modular. So you're not stuck with only what this op can do. You can expand upon it. So first of all, we're going to just make an op, and I'm going to go here. Sorry, I'm going to go to op, create, and I'm going to type in random walker. I'm going to say create. So now the editor pops up. Op isn't here yet, so I press escape twice, and I type in random walker. So I'm going to go to this one. Here we go. I click on the op and I press E, and that brings up the editor. Press escape to close it, click on the op, press E. So you're going to be doing that a lot. So we've got an empty file. So the first thing is I need to pass in a number which will pick a direction. So this will be north, east, south, or west. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3. So I need an input number basically. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to type in const in direction equals op.in int, and then I'm going to call it direction, and just for myself I'm going to say 0 to 3, and the default value is 0. I'm going to press Control S. You know what, I'm going to press Control plus, make the screen a little bit bigger, so hopefully that's a little bit easier to read. Okay, so this now gives me a port here where I can input a number. So now I need to, I want to change the circle's position on X, Y, and maybe Z. So the X, Y, Z position. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to say, and I'm just going to copy paste this because this will then go a little bit quicker with the tutorial, and I'll explain it. So I'm going to paste it. So as you can see, I've made 3 ports. Out X position, out Y position, out Z position, and they're op.out number, and they're labeled like this. So do Control S, you can just pause the video and type that in. And then I get these 3 outputs there. So now I need to make 3 variables to store this position, because it's going to accumulate. It could be 0, 1, 2, -8. It's going to keep adding up and becoming smaller. So I'm just going to make 3 variables, and I'm going to call them X, Y, and Z. Now I put them here in a global scope because I don't want them to be reset each time we're going to call a function later. I want them to be persistent. So now I'm going to make a function called update. And I want update to be called each time that this indirection changes. So I click indirection, copy it, go down here, and I say .onChange equals update. This now means that whenever indirection changes, like here, it's going to call this function update with anything in there. So far, so good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a little bit of code, because otherwise the video can take really a long time. So I'll explain what I'm doing. I make a variable here called dir, which is for direction. Okay, I do math.floor so that if the user accidentally passes in a float, that it becomes an integer number. And then I say here indirection.get, so I get the value from this port. And I'm now doing a modulo of 4. Why? Because no matter what the user puts in as a random number, I always want it to output 0, 1, 2, or 3. Now later on, if you're not getting that, just remove this modulo part here and you'll understand exactly what's happening. So now what we need to do is we need to say that we want to change the value of X and Y depending on the direction. Okay, so 0 is north, 1 is east, 2 is south, 3 is west. So I'm going to grab this code. And I'm going to just paste it here. So I'll just run through it, and we say, if direction, this number, is equal to 0, Y gets 1 added to itself. Else, if direction is equal to 1, X gets 1 added to itself. And then here we go in reverse. We subtract 1 and we subtract 1. That's really it in its simplest form. So I'm going to press Control S. Right, so basically, let's go over here. And as we can see, nothing's happening. Why? We need to set the output. So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to grab a little bit more code just to keep this tutorial a little bit on the shorter side. I'm going to go down here, and we're now going to say, as you can see, we've got these 3 ports up here, out X position, Y position, Z position. And then we just say out X pos dot set, We pass the variable x, which has been modified here through out y position, y, set y. So hopefully this is like self-explanatory so far. So now we just saw a number here change. So let's put this in 0, 1, 2, 1, 2. And as we can see, we're now getting changes here in output. Okay, so that's great. So now we want to generate some random numbers. So let's go over here and let's just grab the random 2 op. This generates a random number on a trigger. And as you can see, it's going bonkers here because it's generating a random number per frame. Okay, so let's get this. Let's just line it up here. We're going to put it down. Okay, and as you can see, this is flying off the scale. Why? Random is only generating numbers between 0 and 1. So I'm going to put it on integer, and then I'm going to put it on, say, 4. And now we can see these numbers here. So you have to imagine we're passing this in now into a circle with x, y, and z. But look at those numbers. Like, this is -1 and this is 1. So this circle is like off a million miles away. We need a way to reset it. Okay, so I'm going to go over here and I'm just going to grab this. And what you do is you can make a reset button. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to put it right at the top. And I say const reset button is equal to op.inTrigger button reset. Save. If I now click on the op, we have an input port and a reset button. So now I want to call a reset function whenever this occurs. So copy paste again. Remember, just pause the video when you want to keep up. I just want to keep this video a bit short. It took too long the first time or two. Control S. So we have a function here called reset, and it resets x, y, and z to 0. So now, just like the indirection on change, I'm now going to say something different. Reset button dot on triggered equals reset. So whenever that button is pressed, we reset it. And let's just see how this is going to work. So we can see these values here, they're going up. If we click reset, they go back to 0. So I can so now I can put the circle back in its original position. Okay, that's great because we want to reinitialize it every single time. So what's happening here? I mean, if I reset this now, we see this. Wow, okay, this is something. So what's happening? So it's taking steps of 1, right? X and Y. So this is 0, 0, 0, and this is like minus 1, minus 1, and so on. So it's just drawing randomly over those positions. But the random walker takes really tiny steps, okay? But because we're not operating on the CPU in pixel space, we need to add a multiplier. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to grab this line of code, and we're going to just make an input port here. I'm going to call it in multiplier. And basically it's a float, and we're going to give it a default value of 0.5. Okay, so now we need to update this. I'm going to say here times. Sorry, we're now going to grab this multiplier. My bad. There we go. So we say here shorthand mult is in multiplier dot get. Okay, so now I get this variable. So it's getting it from that port, which is over here, and I'm just going to multiply all of these numbers here by that value. I'm going to press Control S. Whoa, we already saw something different happen here. So let's put on a really small number, 0.1, and right-click twice to reset. And we need to reset. Look, okay, so wouldn't it be handy if, when I right-click that mouse button, we reset the random walker? Right-click, right-click. Great, so every time we do this now, it goes right back to the middle, and this is looking more like a random walker. So I'm going to make the circle a little bit smaller, 0.01, reset. This is starting to look a little bit like it. So now we're going to go over here. I'm going to just make the material white for now, so it's easier to see. Okay, so now we have this other problem. The random walker is now out of bounds. It's gone to some area offside the screen. So now we need to set up some boundaries. Okay, so a boundary is like, we want to say if you go too far to the left, then you pop out to the right, and if you go too far up, you're going to pop out at the bottom. So it's always within this kind of square. So I'm going to make another input port, and I'm going to call it const in boundary. And once again, it's just a float. Okay, so we have that here now, a boundary of 1. So now we need to just do like a simple if-else-if check like before. And once again, I'm going to copy paste the code because it's just really boring to just see me type this all out I discovered. So I'm going to go here, I'll press enter and go down. So here I'm going to just type in bounds. Okay, so here we say bounds is not defined. This is great, it threw an error. This is going to happen a lot. Now we see this red dot pop up. What he's saying is bounds, the variable, doesn't exist. And this is completely correct because I didn't declare it. So now I'm going to go and grab this line of code. I forgot to do this. And this is good to see because this can happen a lot when you're developing your ops. So now I've made a variable called bounds and it gets it from in boundary. So I'm going to do Control S and watch what happens. We still have this red dot and he says, error, an operator has crashed, reload. So I'm going to just click in the patch, press Control S, I'm going to say reload. Sometimes you just need to reinitialize an op. Okay, and now we see that the red dot's gone. Awesome. So this is already looking a lot closer to the random walker than a few minutes ago. So far, so good. As we can now see what's happening, when it goes outside of the bounds of 1, it comes back in again. So that's really, really cool. But it's going a bit too slow because my whole aim with this is just to be able to make a generative piece and then save a screenshot. Because normally in cables, we're doing everything in real time. And this we're doing in real time, but we're using it to create more of a picture because that was just a challenge. And that was something I thought would be great to do. So how are we going to do this? Well, we've got a really great op called repeat. And repeat does literally that. And I'm going to add it here. I'm going to say repeat. I'm just going to put it on, wrong one, my bad. You need to get this blue one. Repeat, triggers all ops below X times. So I'm going to add it, okay? I'm going to just put it on 1 for now. And first of all, I want to kind of recreate that look from the random walker. So there's an interesting thing here. I want to make the background white and the random walker black. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to grab the clear color op. And I'm going to just like put this on white and look, everything's gone. You know, I mean, I don't have it anymore. Well, we only just want to trigger this once. So we go here to trigger once. Okay. And the cool part of trigger once is it has a reset button. And I'll show you why. We get the mouse, right click button, click it in here. Right click, right click. Now we go to the basic material and we make it black. So this is a great way to be able to set that clear color to something different. See that? Awesome. So let's put this back on white. So let's just get one step closer to the typical random walker. So now I'm going to put the multiplier in a really small number. Hi. And I'm back. So I made a little mistake there. So basically, I want to be able to change the scale of the circle quickly and easily. So I'm going to go to the circle. I'm going to put the radius on 1. And I'm going to go in between. And I'm going to add a scale up. And then I'm going to put this on, say, 0.01. Reset. There we go. Okay. So far, so good. This is looking okay. But I want it to go faster. So this is why we added this repeat up. And I'll click here and press F. And as you can see, there's not a lot happening. But if I now go here and I put this on 100, we kind of brute force this thing to render 100 times per frame. And you can see that here with the activity, right? But look, now we've got something that is really close to the random walker. So now we just have to kind of like tweak it. So I'm going to go to the basic material and I'm going to put it on 0.05 and reset. And that's still a little bit too much for my liking, 0.01. Now, something that was a bit weird that I discovered yesterday was like, and this is random in JavaScript, I think. I'm going to just throw this number on 64, and then I kind of get this behavior that I wanted it to have, where it's just like walking around in a much more random manner. Now, depending on your computer and what it can handle, we could now put this on, say, 1,000. As we can see, it's going way, way faster now. So this is how we've created the basic random walker inside of cables, like we've seen in processing. So if you're over here, you can click this and you could make the patch bigger now, and you can click this icon here, and then it'll save that as a screenshot. So you could just sit here and grab as many screenshots as you want. And I want you to experiment with the basic material, with the alpha, with the circle. You could go in here and you can like slightly change that color. And as you can see, that's starting to add something there as we go along. So in the second video that's coming up, I'm going to show you how to use other ops inside the cables to kind of animate this and to make something way more generative with the output and the result. Okay, thanks for watching. If you've got any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them under the video below or to post them on the forums, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one. Bye.